We're coming out dangerous.
Rockets going off.
Sometimes the brightest stars shine for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They heard us all across Tallahassee after that one.
We got to bring home the W.
Oh yeah, we're gonna destroy them.
Put them on the Heisman watch.
They're fine, man.
Big Ten Player of the Year.
We're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I played a little adult league, goalie.
I felt like I scored in the World Cup, but I didn't even score.
Controversy? Question mark?
Pure chaos.
To go crazy was insane.
Chris Petley, he was the defensive MVP of the 2019 season.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in my prime right now. Let's go.
All right, and welcome back for another TallySCtalk podcast here. Trent Joop and Trent Young, the official podcast of your Tallahassee Soccer Club, the Battle Lions. Trent, a little bit of a long, rough weekend. How are we doing coming out of that match against the Southern Stars? Of course, went up against the top of the table, man.
Yeah, doing well, Jupe. Just happy to be back in Florida. We snuck out to Savannah. Unfortunately, missed the game. Had a little business trip that we were a part of, but had a great weekend. Just happy to be back home and excited for the next 3 home games we have here in Tallahassee for the Battle Lions. So definitely didn't get the result we wanted. Unfortunately, this Saturday, lost 3-0 to the Stars, Southern States. Definitely a couple impactful showings on offense, on defense, all over the pitch. But, yeah, nothing really to write home about from that matchup. We'll put that one behind us quickly and look to get a couple points here. We got some favorable matchups, we think, coming up here in the next month, the next 2-3 weeks. So definitely going to look to get some points and rebound from this rough start of the season we've had so far.
Absolutely. So it was a good little preview of what we'll have going on here, Trent. Of course, we'll talk a little big picture, get into our brief recap here this week. You know we got to shout out our stars of the game, our impressive boys' performances. But, Trent, I also want to focus on kind of the theme here, or one of the big takeaways is we'll get to a little down the line is where TSC is, realistically, expectations so far where we've been, and kind of zoom out a little bit. So often we get caught up in that, and we'll bring in a little bit more of a league picture compared to how we normally do. It should be an interesting one. We'll get into a couple news updates, of course, predictions for the game upcoming against the Roots this Saturday, and a couple other things we want to get into. So an exciting little podcast we have planned for you, so hopefully you stick around and enjoy. If not, we apologize. There's nothing we can do about it. Get us going, man. I guess how we always start things off, what's on your mind? What's got you thinking coming back into this week, or instant reactions? Take it however you want, really. But, you know, as a fan and as somebody who studies these games and enjoys them and is always looking forward to when the TSC Battle Lions take the field, man, what is your takeaways from this weekend? Obviously, it was tough, but what are we thinking?
So, yeah, just for starters, Jupe, I mean, we didn't have our captain, Jacob Smoker. So that was a huge loss right off the gate. You know, we were kind of behind the 8-ball even before the match even started. If you didn't listen to our last episode, if you missed the match against Pensacola, Jacob Smoker in the 92nd minute, I believe, in stoppage time got a straight red card. So he was unfortunately not with us for this match. He will be back next week against the Roots. So that's very exciting. We had a great game against the Roots week 2. So we'll see how we bounce back from that. But yeah, it was definitely our worst game this season, at least from a score line. You know, we lost 3-0 and we've only lost one game. That was the Armada. We lost by a goal. You know, we had an exciting one from Cole Red in the 89th, 90th minute. So definitely our toughest game of the season. The stream wasn't up until about 10 minutes in. I'm not throwing any shade, just making a point. So we didn't see that first goal happen in the 5th minute by Thomas Shepard for the Stars. Go into the match already down 1 goal in the first 5 minutes. So that was tough. They scored another one, I think, in 31st. Okay, yeah, and that was off of a free kick. That was when Wimberly got a yellow card. It could have gone either way. Could have been yellow, could have not, you know. Anyhow, it was a free kick outside the box, and they were out on the right wing, curled the free kick in and put it on, we believe it was Julian Avila's head, number 8, I believe it was, for the Stars. So he got a great heading goal, just beat the defender near post, beat the keeper with a front post header. And yeah, then we had another one right there, gave up the 3rd goal there in the 46th minute, right after kickoff of the second half. So that was a little discouraging. Grant Wallum had just come in for Cranbeck. Nothing he could do. I mean, just a great cross, another header, this time back post. Nothing he could do on that one. So, just a couple of tough breaks. I mean, we only saw the 2 goals. Those were both headers. Have no idea how the first one happened. Tough break there, but we had Coach Bruno back, so that was huge. We didn't have any water breaks in either half, so kind of inconsistent here in the NPSL refereeing if we're going to have a water break or not. It's kind of been 50-50. Some matches have had them, some haven't. So, yeah, Jupe, those are just the first couple of things that pop out to me off the top of my head. But what did you think about the game, man?
It was a mixed bag, Trent, to truly be honest about what was going on and what the thoughts were and kind of the process. Is obviously you look at the 3-0 score line and a little dismayed with that. Of course, like we said, unfortunately out on other matters. It is the only Saturday we will not be there for TSC at a home game. So excited to be back, of course, this Saturday. Get looking forward to the Roots. But, of course, the matter at hand, like you were saying, impacts of this game. I don't think it was the worst performance for sure by the team. And so I think the 3-0 scoreline's a little harsh. I honestly don't think that Southern Stars dominated us, as the score would indicate, Trent, something that we talked about a little bit off of the air. Basically, they were just an efficient ball club, and you can tell they were skilled, they were on the same page, and not going to take anything away, but I don't think they're a dominant, far and away other Galaxy type of team. They're obviously 4 for 4, and you can definitely say, at least watching the other games, I would say that they're the best team, but I don't think they're uncatchable. I don't think they're out of reach, and no reason why we couldn't get a result. But like we said, efficient. And you talked about the 2 goals in the first half. They really only had 2 to 4 chances. This wasn't a barrage of offensive attack, and we were just trying to weather the storm. They had about 4 chances. Maybe, and you kind of average that out of the half, 4 or 5 chances, maybe if you want to throw another one in. Every 10 minutes, you average a chance. What game that you play in soccer does the other team not have a chance every 10 minutes? That's actually great. I thought on the other side, you think about the Roots game, if you're just talking about chances, not quality of chances, not execution, not anything else, I think the Roots had many more opportunities to have a scoring chance against us. Obviously, a completely different conversation. And if you're just talking about scoring attack or threatened from the other team, I thought Jacksonville did a much better job in the first half of that game when we played them. Obviously, they parked the bus in the second half, but they seemed like a more relentless offensive attack to go after it and go get it. And I think it was fortunate they only bagged 2. But as far as that, I don't think Southern Stars is out of reach. But like we said, this was a team, skilled, tactical, confident. They did obviously watch a lot of film on us, I think, which was evident the way that they approached the game as how they attacked us with that. You think about the spacing offensively that they used, those diagonal runs offensively. And also, every time that Johnny touched the ball, there was one person on him instantly, if not 2 people. And I think the same goes for Levy as well. They notified those guys as kind of the jump starters, which we've talked about every single podcast. They've talked about those guys as the jump starters of the offense, which is true and something you can't argue with. And so they said, take away your biggest key of the ball club. And that's really all that they did. And they capitalized on offense. They even had a couple great chances that they did not cash in. But at least to me, the big part of it, I don't think we were dominated. And it looks rough, and people kind of following the team, which is something we can talk a little bit later. We've had 2 home games, lost them both, so that's a little discouraging. Been outscored 5-1 in those contests, but, we want to paint a picture of reality, which we'll get to in a little bit, Trent. But I don't think we were outclassed. Obviously, I think the better team won that day, anybody talking to it. So I'd be interested to see what Bruno thinks and talking around the team here this week to kind of get their reflections of it, to see what the input is, but obviously a disappointing result. But we got to move forward. We got to keep it rolling. But as far as the game goes, we had some quality chances on the attack, and there were opportunities to definitely put some stuff in. I feel like we have a lot of positives that we can get into a little bit. But one thing we are establishing a reputation is, Trent, kind of funny. Obviously a physical team, a chippy team, and we kind of get the chip on our shoulder. But I like to think that we're the bad boys of, if not just the Gulf Coast Conference, the NPSL, because we have 11 cards on the book so far through 4 games. Whether the referees just have some beef, but 10 yellow cards, including 4 this past Saturday versus the Southern Stars, and then, of course, the straight red that you talked about coming from the Pensacola game that put us without Schmoker. Yeah, I guess kind of further going into that, we could use that as a segue. Trent, tell me about the cards, or perception of the team, or we can kind of use that as a refereeing, because that's something that we're always going to talk about, one of those hashtag NPSL problems in the semi-professional space. That's going to be a topic of conversation, and whether you use it as an excuse or just thing of note, or just to see how the game flow is affected, but that's going to be impacted here. Any thoughts from you in that regard with the Zebras?
Like you said, 4 yellow cards in this match. Referenced the Wimberley one in the first half earlier. He was subbed in the 44th minute, if I'm not mistaken. So, maybe he got hurt. Maybe that was a little bit of Bruno making sure we didn't go a man down. Your defensive mid, he's in there making a lot of tackles. Yeah, Wimberley just a physical player, and Bruno probably just being conservative, making sure the team doesn't go a man down there, especially in the first half. So I think it was a little bit of both there from Bruno. As far as the other 2 cards on players we had in the first half, also had one on Cameron Earls, and then one a minute or 2 later on Johnny Fitzgerald. Earls was warned for playing a little too aggressive, kind of keeps John back at the ref, trying to feel him out, trying to, plead his case, I guess. Bang, gets a yellow card for that. So Earls gets one. I thought that was a little unwarranted, just talking to the ref man to man. And then Johnny's talking to the ref just a minute or 2 later. Bam, gets another yellow right there. So we've got 3 yellows in the first half. Luckily, no players got any in the second half, but late in the game, 87th minute. And Coach Bruno just telling it like it is, making sure the ref actually knows what is happening in the game, because Bruno's all over that action per usual. So just a little bit of that, I think. And ref wasn't having it, didn't want to be told about some calls he was missing or anything like that. So just gives Bruno a yellow. Got him off his back for a little bit. Just wanted to get out there without any conflict. So I think that's all it was. But yeah, 4 more yellow cards for the Battle Lions this Saturday.
Do you think it's an appropriate moniker that TSC is the bad boys of the Gulf Coast Conference, or the bad boys of the NPSL, Trent, the way we're getting all these yellows and reds going on so far, whether warranted or not?
I think the argument can be made either way. I mean, these are some really nice guys. I don't think that they're going out there playing dirty or anything like that. But at the same time, the opposite end of that narrative, they're just some guys going out there scrappy, fighting for every possession, just trying to do whatever they can to get the win. So if they have to get a yellow card, if they got to set the tone, then so be it. So, yeah, I think it could kind of go either way. We'll see how the next couple of results shape up. If we, average in another yellow card or 2 per game, then yeah, I'd probably play along with that narrative. But it's still early in the season. We've seen some pretty poor officiating, so I don't know if I would crown them the bad boys just quite yet.
I'm not necessarily trying to frame them as we're going after people, or, like the Pistons back in the day, they're like looking for a brawl and that's how we're going to win. But just the perception that every time the refs show up, it seems like the cards are just flying out of the pocket. And I liked the guys, I think it was after the Fitzgerald card, because at that point we had gotten 3 yellow cards in a span of 10 game minutes. And so he said he's going to have to go back to the store to pick up some more cards or something like that. So that was one of my favorite lines in the play-by-play. But, yeah, that was definitely an issue. And, whether warranted or not, I mean, this is a scrappy ball club. People know we're going to, we don't have a lot of big dudes, but we've got a lot of chip on our shoulder, intense guys, and that's kind of how it goes sometimes. But to me, at least for the referees, I have 2 side-by-side questions. One, if the head referee had any kids, or 2, if he's used to doing high school stuff. Because it seemed, and you think about it, especially on the Earls and Fitzgerald one, it seemed that it was the feedback or the talk or the question of whether the call was, and them trying to talk it out. And, the players are emotional down there. But it seemed like it was more of the clapback, if you will. That sounds, not like they're taking shots at the referee, but it was them being like, whoa, what the heck's that call about? So it makes you wonder the situation is if he's used to doing, because a lot of these college guys, that is kind of the banter, college, semi-professional. These guys are closer in age. They're more peers. It's not like us doing a youth game, Trent, a distinct authority versus employee-employer relationship. It maybe not a perfect analogy, but you know what I mean as far as somebody who has a little more control, or this is more of a level playing field. I feel like you should be able to absorb the banter, but you think about it, it was the 2 college guys. So, in a college atmosphere, you usually do have these referees that there's a little more back and forth, or you're seeing in the pros, regardless of sports, they're a little closer in age and they're both professionals. And so there's some banter and they can take that back and forth. But if he's used to doing high school games or used to not dealing with that, he's just like, no, these are the rules. You don't talk back to me. You just like it. Trying to lay that down. Oh, Cameron, you want to talk about this? Bam, yellow card, get on my face. Johnny, got something to say? Bam, yellow card. Late in the game, hey, coach, 86th minute, I'll give you a little leeway, coach, because quite frankly, I think you could rip my head off. But 4 minutes later, bam, one for you too. And he was just dishing him out. He's like, don't ever doubt me. It was almost like a power trip to me. I know I'll get into a rant as we kind of go off, and not to put it all on the referees, but that was just humorous in that regard. So it wasn't the necessarily calls on the field. It was the attitude and the conversations and those after. I don't think Cameron or Johnny was out of line of doing those and inquiring. And you saw Corey get in there a couple times as well. Of course, Corey, the ambassador, as he was wearing the captain's armband, just like a lot of time you see Schmoke in there, the captain's responsibility, he's a representative of the team, of course. And so he's usually the guy that would go forward to that. But yeah, I thought that was funny and just kind of a mindset that I thought. Those are my first couple questions. It's like, dang, wonder if this guy is militaristic parenting style. It's no leeway, or he's only done high school games. He's like, you kids don't talk back to me. Them be the rules. No leeway with that. But so those are just kind of my thoughts on the matter, Trent, as far as the cards and everything. Yeah, definitely a tough sell, and evidently you can't have conversations with the ref here, depending on what week you got going on and what kind of action is developing.
Yeah, so we definitely, like you said, it wasn't, we were just getting dominated. They had a million chances, and we're never getting the ball into their half, their attacking third, or anything like that. We definitely had plenty of opportunities, a few set pieces, a few corners and such that gave us a few opportunities. But right after, a few minutes after they got that third goal, I thought we really turned up the heat. Now, obviously, they're up 3-0. They didn't really attack quite half as hard, not quite parking the bus, but not giving it their full 120% effort to bury some more goals in the back of our net. So I was definitely thankful for that. But we definitely capitalized on that as far as a momentum standpoint goes. In the 52nd minute, we had a counterattack where Sai gets the ball and he has an opportunity to chip the keeper, but he gets closed down by two defenders at the same time. Just unlucky. He almost had a goal there. I think if it was just Sai and the keeper, I think he's putting that away 10 out of 10 times. Even if it's Sai and one defender, he could probably do it. But just with the two defenders and keeper closing out on him all at one time, he could only get a corner out of it. Then we get a second corner, if I'm not mistaken, after that ball goes out. And this is where we have 5 or 6 opportunities, 5 or 6 shots actually on goal or near goal that either get deflected or get poked away by the keeper. There's even one point where David Monroe and Levy Nasimba on the third or fourth shot, David goes up for a header and Levy does a full bicycle kick, gets part of it. The keeper just punches it out. Then it goes to Johnny, and Johnny takes a touch or two, rips it, and just goes into the side of the net. So, there were many chances to be had just in that one sequence of play. There's a few seconds where Southern States couldn't actually clear the ball, and we were just going right at him. And unfortunately, didn't get a goal out of that, but definitely kept the momentum up. Just a couple minutes later, Johnny Fitzgerald, 56th minute. The ball was out for a throw. Johnny is standing right there. Wasn't marked for a couple seconds, but before I think Bennett Mitchell could throw it in, somebody came over and marked him. So Bennett Mitchell has a great, huge throw into the box. Johnny just kind of drifts towards the top of the 18. Ball falls to him, and he just has a rips it to the left 90. Keeper has a great save, outstretched hand, uses the palm of his hand, sees it over. Very tough. A lot of great play from Drew Daunt, linking the defense to the attack, just getting the ball, crossing it in, dribbling it in, servicing his teammates. Had a couple good balls over top to Osgood. So, like you said, it was a really good team performance. Obviously, you don't think that seeing the scoreline of 3-0, but a lot of good momentum that we established in the second half. And we were in this game. We were obviously down 2 goals to Pensacola in the second half, came back and tied that up. So we were never out of this game. We just couldn't quite get a goal or two and get ourselves back into it. But still, all in all, it was a good learning experience. Southern Stars are, like you said, 4 games. I believe they've got 12 points now. So they're winning every single match they played. If you thought that we were going to win this match, I don't know what was wrong with you, but I think, though, and we were talking about this before we started the pod today, they're not as far away from us. They're not in another galaxy like it seems that they are. And we're going to get another chance to play them. We've got a good streak here, 3 home games against some of the weaker teams in the league, Florida Roots, Port City, who I don't believe has any points so far, and Florida Roots only the 1 point against us, which we should have won that match. So when we play Southern Stars next time around, I think it'll definitely be a lot closer of a match than 3-0.
Definitely be something to keep an eye on and to focus on going forward, and of course to strive for. But yeah, that sequence that you were talking about where we had 5 to 6 chances, that was back in the 52nd, and the service from Johnny was nasty. Earls wins the header, which he had done a number of times. He was kind of a pest man here for Southern Stars, obviously in a good way for us, but against the Southern Stars defense, just in there, making contact, making dangerous runs. But he does a good job heading it towards the ground. It kind of reminds me of the David Monroe header from the Pensacola game. Did a good job elevating, getting it down. That's the one that skipped off the crossbar, the Monroe one in the Pensacola. But this one just kind of bumps around, and I feel like I've had so many of these either in high school or in youth. The ball is right there, but it keeps finding defenders, and you just keep ramming into a brick wall, and you just can't find it through. But like you said, we had the Earls chance gets in there. Then they had a Southern Stars defender that steps in, and he heads it backwards. I think he's trying to head it to the keeper, but it doesn't get there, and so he just heads it back to one of the defenders, so that was shaky. And then Cy gets a header in on that one from about 8 yards out. And then, yeah, that was wild. I thought Levy was going to take David's head off because he goes back for that bike, and obviously not out of malice, but both of those players in positions to make a play. David Monroe coming in for the powerful header, and Levy trying to rip that bike. And so it looks like they bumped a little bit, and they get wiped out there. But either one of those ones had a chance for it. And then, of course, like you said, it kind of dribbles out to Johnny. He gets a 2-touch. And because he's trying to, there's a very narrow window. So he's got to try to hammer it in near post. And so he tries to rip it a little higher to give himself that upper window. And it just flies, or not flies, but just a little bit of the outside of the foot, just enough with the power he put on it to whip it out to the side netting. So that one was close. But oh my gosh, that was such a crazy sequence and such a wild one. And would have been huge with 35, if you incorporate stoppage time, almost 40 minutes of the ball game left to get it back to 2 goals at that point, and just to have the psychological effort of breaking down the top team. But that would have been awesome. But unfortunately, that's not how it went, man. It didn't go in. But a shout out to the Southern Stars goalkeeper, Trent. I thought he was by far and away the best keeper that we've seen all season, as far as just kind of top to bottom, communication with the defense, coming out and taking away chances. There were probably at least 2 instances per half. I can't think of the exact minutes that we have now, and they're probably in my notes that the keeper had a great kind of step out of cutting off the attack. But I can think of at least 2 instances per half of him coming out and just eliminating it. Whereas in other games, probably maybe 1 or 2 of the keeper doing that. But as far as athleticism, range, communication with the defense, confidence, I mean, I thought he was definitely the best keeper, which made it kind of a tall task for us to get it by. But we definitely had some gettable ones. But I want to know what your thoughts are. What do you think of the man in between the posts there for the Southern Stars? Not to crush on him too hard, but just to give a realistic perspective of trying to get this ball in the back of the net. This is definitely the best dude, I thought, me personally, that we've faced this season.
Yeah, Joop, hands down, that man was a brick wall. There was no way we were getting a goal, unfortunately. Like we said, we had 5 or 6 chances just within 5 or 6 seconds, it felt like. And he and his whole defense were right there, just literally building a wall, camping out on that line, making sure that nothing crossed. So I would have to agree with you, though. He was far and away the best keeper that the Battle Lions have faced. And I mean, even on the few chances we had, he was just all over him. He was just sitting back there on his toes, just waiting on the ball to come to him. And an uphill battle from that perspective alone. But I don't really think that they totally outpossessed us. It wasn't like a 70, 80 to 20, 30% possession. It was pretty 50-50 for the most part of the game, I felt. And so but goalkeeping really came into play, especially for the Stars and their win. I mean, I'm not saying that because our lack of goalkeeping kept us out of it, but just the fact that they had somebody who wasn't going to give up a goal. I mean, you can't win a game without scoring a goal. Best you can do is draw. So, I mean, I really liked Graham Wallum when he came into goal in the second half. He was really talkative with the back line before he ever set the ball down. He would make eye contact with the defenders, push his back line up because, we're down 3 goals. We got to send everybody up and try to establish some sort of attack. And so I thought that he was pretty vital in setting up the attack from a defensive perspective and really communicating with the defense and getting them where they needed to be on the field. Obviously gave up the 1 goal there in the 46th minute right out the gate. He was probably just trying to establish communication with everybody, get a feel for the game, and then gives up a goal. But after that, had a clean sheet from the 46th minute on, if you want to look at it that way. But so a good half for Wallem as a whole, I felt. And to go back to Kronbeck, we didn't see the first goal that he allowed, but off the second one, that free kick where Avila just lost his marker, makes a beeline to the front post, perfectly weighted pass, right place, right time, front post. Nothing that Kronbeck could do on that one. So we didn't see the first one, but I still felt like he had a couple good saves. There was one where there was a shot near post, and he took a little deflection and made sure it went out of bounds. I don't know if it bounced off the post or not. It was really close, but he definitely had his front post marked, which obviously, if you've ever played any sort of goalkeeper, rule 1, always got to have that front post on lock. If they beat you, they got to beat your back post. So the only goal that we saw, nothing that he could do about it. And other than that, good showing from Wallem. I wouldn't say the goalkeeping is what kept us out of this game, but I will say that the goalkeeping for the Stars is what put the clamps on us and limited our chances that we had. The few shots we had on goal, because of the great goalkeeping, we couldn't convert.
Like we talked about, Trent, some solid goalkeeping from the Southern Stars, and we saw another face, of course, that you referenced, Wallem getting into the match. Of course, the first game experience for Grant Wallem here. So, Trent, I know it's kind of been an ongoing topic of conversation. We've now seen all 3, at least a half from all 3 of the big 3 keepers we have on the senior team for Tallahassee Soccer Club. So, your thoughts about the ongoing keeper battle? Is this something that you could see us continue to do? Keepers going 45 minutes until we kind of really establish things? Because obviously Wallem, back new to the team, of course hasn't been here since day 1, and we consistently get players that we're kind of phasing in, especially in the field so far. But those champagne problems that we talked about of having a lot of riches in between the pipes, and we got some 3 quality dudes, could this be something that we continue to cycle through? We could get 2 different guys in the top 18, a different guy every week coming into the mix and kind of rotating between the 3, or where do you think we are on this keeper conversation? Because at least personally, I think these are all 3 quality dudes, and it may just be like we talked about, what the feel in practice was, what the outlook of the game is, and who's the hot hand maybe going forward. But any thoughts on the goalkeeper situation? Because realistically, you're not going to burn 3 spots on goalkeeper when you go into this one and only have 15 field players. We're only going to be carrying 2 goalkeepers here in our 18.
Yeah, absolutely, Joop. And you mentioned it being a 3-headed monster. There's even a possibility that the 16-year-old Tyler Sloan, he's been in the 18 before. He could possibly get in on some of this later on if he starts to show some promise in practice, show that he can compete with these guys. But, again, you make a huge point that they are a little more older, seasoned. A lot of these guys have played in college. And Oscar, he was the backup goalie on the 2019 team, so he's got some familiarity within the club. So I really think that it's kind of just going to be a toss-up. I don't think it's anyone's position to lose. I kind of just think it's everybody's to win. And maybe what Bruno does is he just keeps this kind of Russian roulette, keeping everybody on their toes, don't know which keeper you're going to get this week. And I'm okay with that because you can't really pick, at least this point in the season. Now, granted, we don't have any wins, but you can't really pick one definitive keeper that has been the best. I mean, Kronbeck, at least from an attacking perspective, he's got the hockey assist and one of the assists very late in the match, comes up, knows how to send a great ball in from midfield. So maybe you kind of lean that way because we always find ourselves in these shootouts where we've got to get goals late in the match. We're always, either playing from behind or trying to get that last goal to push us over, get the 3 points that we need. So I can see going with Kronbeck. He got the start. They pulled him in half, maybe just a little bit to see what we've got out of Wallem. But for me personally, I don't think there is a definitive answer. I think we're just going to keep rotating guys. If one of them gets hot, if there's one that specifically stands out, Bruno might lean that way a little bit more. But even at that point, I don't think it's going to be 100% this guy's playing 90 minutes every match, game in and game out.
Yeah, when we talk about these keepers, I agree. I mean, there's nothing really we can further dive into it. Just a hot hand, what we're thinking about, what's going on, and just the rotation. Like you said, only bringing in 2 keepers to the mix. This is something that Bruno stresses at all levels is competition. And these guys are fighting for roster spots on a weekly basis. And that's why you see a little bit of fluidity here of the top 18, but this is a guy high intensity, high effort, and if those things aren't coming through in practice, the top 18 is not going to be realistic. This isn't for everybody. This is semi-professional soccer, and we have the great love and family and participation of everything, but at the same time, we're trying to get out here and get results. And so that's the thing. Bruno, he's not going to be deceptive, and he's very straightforward. What you see is what you get, man, and he'll tell you like it is, and he'll tell you how he feels, and he'll tell you exactly what's up. And you got to appreciate that. Maybe a little abrasive depending on how you've come up and how you've been coached and how you've been raised. But, you got to respect a man and know where you stand. And so at least you know what that is. There's not kind of any backdoor conversations or scheming behind or anything like that. Is, hey, this is what he wants. If I go out and get this, I'm going to get some playing time and I'm going to get some effort. And you see that, to me, comes through as far as Corey Osgood. Really been grinding and he's just a junkyard dog when he's on the field, dude, and he's going after anything. And he's kind of one of those turn and burn players that I don't think he's played the full 90, but just because of the energy that's getting put out here is with these 7 substitutions, obviously you don't have to take him the full 90. And that's what I think kind of the message is and something we talked about defensively is, but basically Osgood just earned himself tons of time by this effort and even got the captain's armband here on Saturday. So cool for him, but this isn't a guy that played college ball. He played up at Childs, and then after that he was done. And so beginning of the season, I know we caught up with him in one of our interrogations of interest. And if you didn't hear that, feel free to go back and check out episode 1, the marathon that we had out there. This was a player I think is picturesque of this, and he's perpetually just an absolute grinder, and that's what I think Bruno wants, is just a guy that has a lot of high effort, a lot of high octane, high energy, and that's kind of what the story is, especially as an underdog that we painted the team as earlier this season. That's still prevailing. That hasn't changed. You think about it, and this is a team that's probably middle of the table talent-wise. That doesn't mean you have to finish middle of the table, or it doesn't mean the other teams are out of your league, but that just means you have to win in other different ways and grind it out and be physical and make them play your style. I think that's one thing that benefited Southern Stars is they were able to dictate terms, and they wanted to have possessions and try to whip us out of position, and they didn't have a lot of opportunities like we've said, maybe 4 or 5 legit chances in the first half, but keeper rolls it out of the back. They play everything back to front, trying to twist us out, not necessarily like a Barcelona where they'll just have a million different passes, kind of the same conceptual approach as we're not going to create a lot of opportunities for you to take us out of possession. And so they had a lot of one-time balls, a lot of calculated balls on the perimeter and through balls into the attacking third, and then they would try to strike from there. And so, there were a couple times they got us out of position by design, and you could tell, like we've referenced before, that they watched some film on us and saw some avenues that they could potentially attack or try to shut us down. But to me, that was really the difference here, is just able to dictate those terms and efficiency. You have the chance, and that's what soccer's all about, man, because you could dominate the game, but you get one good chance, you put that in, and that breaks it open. That changes everything, man. And that's kind of the beauty and kind of the frustration and the love-hate that you can have as a kind of game of the whole. And so much it's about the build-up and cashing it in as opposed to other sports, because football, there's tons of touchdowns and extra points, or, basketball game, there's going to be dozens and dozens of baskets made. You know that going in. But potentially in soccer, there could be only one that goes in. It's about the build-up and being able to capitalize that. And so that's what they did effectively, and that was essentially the difference in the ball game, of course. But, we generated chances and the good goalkeeping for them, but there were a couple opportunities that we missed or didn't cash in, and especially in the second half, I thought that they controlled terms, especially that first 35 minutes. We opened up a little bit before the half and started to flex and flow into things a little bit and get some construction, and Corey and Levy and Bennett coming in and being able to work on the side and, of course, up top with Cy and Johnny when he wasn't getting double and triple teams because they really were attacking him in the midfield. They were going after him to make sure he couldn't facilitate chances like those. But playing into the narrative, a lot of stuff that we've already talked about. They have a very calculated approach. They didn't take a lot of risks, and they kept most of it short. They had some long balls or some opportunities that they try to want to exploit, but for the most part, quick one-times, vision, compact approach to the game, man. At least for me, that's most of the big picture stuff. You got any other kind of big picture thoughts that you want to go through, or instances of the game that stuck out to you, or moments that you thought we were going to get that breakthrough and they didn't necessarily come through?
When you set it up like that, the thing that pops out to me is probably just the David Monroe header Levy bike. If Levy isn't there, if Monroe isn't there, if it's just one of those guys in that space, they have enough room to contort their body and get that shot on goal with enough power and placement. So that's the one that I think of that I wish we could have got. And then the Fitzgerald shot right outside the box just a minute or two after that, where he put that on frame, and it was just a good save. Keeper, right place, right time, and read it all the way. But yeah, like you said, just to go back, football, you said there's a lot of touchdowns, extra points, not even just from a total scoring perspective, but there are bailouts in other sports. Like if you've got a good drive down the field, you can't get a touchdown, you get stopped on third down, you can kick a field goal if you're in field goal range. You still score, still putting points on the board. Basketball, somebody hits you on your way up to the hoop, you get 2 free throws with nobody guarding you. Great opportunities to score. I mean, yeah, you get penalties in soccer, but those are clearly few and far between, at least for the most part. In a couple games, we've seen a penalty or two awarded, but I don't think that there was one in this match, and there wasn't one in the Armada game. So just from that perspective, a lot of the build-up play, a lot of our counterattacks will go unnoticed because it's not going to show up as a goal on the score sheet. So that's just something to keep in mind, to take away. It was just a tough go of the match. Like you said, they just locked Johnny down. Definitely did a lot of film study on us. Cy and Levy didn't really get as much space to work with, and so they really clamped him down as well. So it's a good showing from the Southern Stars. They proved why they're still number one in the league, why they've only won in matches they've played. But still, I definitely think something to build off of, something to take into next week. You know, that's fine. We can be down on ourselves, but we got to take it out on the Roots when we line up against them on Saturday, because we should have got 3 points the first time we played against them. And now they're coming to our home in Tallahassee. It's just going to be a great match, man. We're going to wreck them, I hope.
Don't we all hope that we can wreck the Roots here on Saturday, upcoming, of course, next home game. Yeah, going back to just one of those opportunities that could have been nasty. There was second half, so we were going left to right in this half. We were attacking the south end, and Dalton was on the wing, of course, the right back, and then he whips a nasty ball. It was almost identical to one of their goals. It was the second one in the 31st minute that they put it in. Of course, the guy was left-footed, so it was kind of an outswinger, and just got clipped the guy in the head. Bam, he threw it in near post, but it was in open play this time. Dalton whips in with the right foot, so it's an in-curler, hits Cameron, and he gets it on frame, but once again, a nice save by the keeper. That was one of the chances that just was nasty, and great to have Daunt back. And then, once again, we didn't know if he was hurt, but playing the full 90 back again, so you could tell he left his stamp on the game. Of course, an aggressive junkyard dog, somebody who's really been getting after it this season. But yeah, for the most part, I have to agree with you, Trent, and looking forward, and we can jump forward to a little bit while we're talking Root. You want to get into a little predictions here while we talking Roots, or you want to set it up a little more, man?
I say we set it up a little bit more, because to tell you the truth, I haven't even thought about what I was going to predict. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into our stars of the game. We'll put the bow on this one if you want to, and then we'll get into what we've got up ahead on the schedule.
Fair enough. Let's get to our stars of the game. Trent.
Star attraction. Star.
The stars of the game here for TSC.
Star attraction.
Fired up, man. Who you got? Of course, stars of the game, for those, if you're just joining us or not familiar, basically just a couple players that stuck out to us. We want to give a special shout-out to of who we thought or who we enjoyed watching this past Saturday. So, Trent, give me a little star of the game, man. What you got? What you thinking?
So for my third player, my one star of the match, I'm going to go ahead and give that to Bennett Mitchell. He came on early, I believe around the 15-minute mark for Mike Zamore. Bennett Mitchell came in, and he had some Monroe throws, big throw from Monroe throws in this match. He was playing out wide, And he's a great player who can play either left back, right back. He's very diverse with both feet and just got a cannon as far as the throw-ins go. And so on that one shot from Johnny, it was because he had a big throw into the box. It got headed down, and then Johnny was able to come onto it. And I just thought Bennett Mitchell did a good job. Played very similar to Drew Daunt, but just always up the wing and always tracking back on defense, locking his man down. And I just thought Bennett Mitchell, for somebody who didn't start but still played 75 minutes, almost the full 90, I thought that was a really good showing from him. What about you, Juke? Who'd you have, man?
Couple chances for Mitchell there in the counterattack on a good takeaways and then the launch into stuff. So I like that one. One of my stars of the game, first want to go Corey Osgood. Like we said, we talked about how he's really been earning his stripes. Got the captain's armband, so that doesn't happen on accident. Of course, filling in for Schmoker, who got the red card, and so, of course, serving his suspension. For those of you who don't know, when you get a red card, obviously miss the next game. So no Schmoker, which, man, I feel like something we kind of glazed over talking back about the game, but really missed his impact and would really like to have seen him help organize and get things together on the back line, but really excited for him to come back into the fold, and that'll be big for us, I think, as a team. But Osgood, I mean, I think of the early part of the game, he actually had a gorgeous creative move to Cy. There was some good service from the back line, and Osgood just hands it off almost, but like a little back flick with the outside of his right foot, puts it right onto Cy. And then I think he either shoots or sends it over, but it was a good little sequence. Him and Cy, him and Cameron, just some good combos from that attacking effort, some attacking slot. So I'm going to go Corey Osgood with my one-star man, one of my man of the match. So I'll jump up to my other guy, of course, team man of the match. So who am I to argue with Coach, man? Of course, the facilitator, the maestro. As Cameron Earls said when we talked to him last week, he said he's kind of the Messi of the team. He said just super impressed with his touch from Johnny and just what he's able to do with the ball, even with the attack from the Southern Stars going after him relentlessly. Still a solid performance from Johnny here, and some free kicks, as we talked about. Without Schmoker, Johnny took almost all. Obviously, Levy had the one shot that was dangerous in the second half that he took off of the free kick, but for the large part, Fitzgerald taking all the free kicks and doing a solid job. So once again, linking up that midfield to the attack. But I thought, Johnny, get him in my stars of the game. But I know you got your top two, man.
Yeah, coming in hot, just to segue off of your Osgood love, I've got Drew Daunt, and I thought Drew Daunt, Osgood, they had a decent connection. There was one play in the first half where Daunt comes down the line, plays a great ball over top to Osgood, and Osgood just times his run perfectly. The ball kind of like comes in behind him, and he just like stops it, puts it on a platter for cousin Cy. Cy comes onto it, but there's a defender on him, and he goes to ground when he takes the shot. He pleads his case, tries to get a free kick there. It was right outside the box. Unfortunately, to no avail. But I thought that Drew Daunt as a whole could kind of be considered an MVP for this season. I mean, obviously, Johnny Fitzgerald is kind of like that Messi. And it's funny you said that because, for lack of a better term, I was talking to one of my buddies this week, trying to get him hyped on the team. I was telling him earlier last week about the comeback we had against Pensacola, and was explaining Fitzgerald as our Messi, just the guy that can do it all, gets himself in the right positions, the productive player in the attacking third more times than not. So, yeah, I just thought that, to go back to Daunt, though, his defense, he has just solidified one of the outside backs for the Battle Lions. And so it's just exciting to have somebody just graduated high school, 18 years old, who is hopefully going to be here as a stalwart for a long time on this defense. So that's my number two player, Drew Daunt. Great season so far, Drew. Keep it up, man. Number one, though, we got Levy Nasimba. So Nasimba didn't have a goal. I was hoping that this would be the match, but, man, he was inches away from getting that bike. And just think if there was just one of the two, him or Monroe, in that space, then one of them would have tucked it away. Yeah, Levy Nasimba, he could really be the man of the match, kind of like Fitzgerald. Really, any of these games so far this season. Hasn't had a goal yet, but has just been crucial in the attack. Maybe one of our best dribblers in space, is really scary on the attack, going one-on-one, very downhill player, plays with a lot of speed. One of our more seasoned players that we have is just a veteran and can just work his way through any defense. So Levy Nasimba is my three-star man of the match. Jupe, what about you, man?
Of course, Levy, like you said, perpetual nominee, as well as Drew, really, for that top star guy every single week. So it's no accident that they're usually in the six-pack of ones that we're talking about. For top stars, I got to go with my man Cameron Earls, dude. Just the way he was getting after it, causing trouble on the wing, diagonal runs, making trouble in the box, and that's what you want, a provocateur up top and trying to make something happen and put some goals in, because we got to score goals to win, man. And, of course, it was a shame that we didn't get one from him or any of the other guys for the first time this season. Shut out, man. So it took us a while. We had to pay the best team in the league, but, you know, a talented strike force, like we talked to him last week with all these guys up top, but just the way he was going after it and getting some quality efforts in there. I have a big offensive bias here on this week's Stars of the Game. So, yeah, give me Cameron Earls. Heavy offense for me, Trent, and heavy defense for you. Kind of ironic that I go all my guys on more of the offensive side, didn't score any goals, but some good production, good efforts out there. But it'll be a nice segue. So let's get out of our Stars of the Game segment.
Star attraction.
Let's jump into a little segment we tried out last week, a little Who's Next.
Who's next?
And who are you going to be sitting next to?
Guys who want it all. Chicas, champagne, flash.
Who's next? You're next!
Trent, basically Who's Next is who we think is going to score on two fronts. One, we have 7 different goals by 7 different players. So who's next to get there first? And then who do you think is going to double up first, Trent? Give me your opinions on both of those, and give me a little backstory or paint the picture for me. Don't just give me a name. That's no fun, dude. We wouldn't have a podcast if we just listed off bullet points and went on for 7 minutes instead of, 2 to 3 hours like we seem to have on a weekly basis. So give me your thought of who's next.
Who's next?
Well, Trent Joop, as you know, this is a pro rant podcast, so I will not just be giving you a name and dismissing it. My player who is going to be up next to score their first goal of the season, like you said, 7 players, 7 different goals. I'm going to say Corey Osgood, just to segue out of what you were talking about, just a guy that didn't play in college, just a hard worker, earns the captain band this week without Schmoker there. The last couple games, it seems like Osgood's ramping his way into more of an established role. And as far as just play on the field, I mean, Corey Osgood had 2 chances in the first, 10, 15 minutes. So the stream started 10 minutes in, and within the first 5 minutes, Corey Osgood had a couple of opportunities to either take a shot himself or set the team up with a good shot. So there was one where they were getting kind of clumsy on the back line. Ball goes back to the keeper. Corey just gets all over that action, gets his foot out there, and it almost takes a deflection into the goal after he comes in there. So he almost scores off a slide tackle as a defender, not even necessarily a shot, just trying to get into the path of the ball and disrupt. And it almost results in a goal very early on in the game. That would have tied it up 1-1, could have been a completely different game. But I think either just before or just after that, the outside back, the right back, drops the ball to the center back. Corey Osgood's all over it, reads it, slides in there, is just inches, maybe even centimeters away from touching that ball. And if he gets onto that one, maybe he can deflect it into the path of one of our teammates. Maybe he can trap the ball, stand up, take a shot, pass it off to somebody. But yeah, Corey Osgood, just a really hard worker, finds himself picking outside, had a really good pass to side where he had a shot, almost chipped the keeper. Had another really good one, like I said, where Dont played it over the top. He just puts it on a platter for side in the first half. So if he's not scoring a goal, I think he's going to get an assist at least in this next game against the Roots on Saturday. What about you, man? Who do you have for your Who's Next player this week?
My breakthrough guy, I think he gets into the 18. I think he's healthy. He's getting there. He's been building progress. So I'm going to go a little off the cuff here. But give me Corey Davis, looking like he's going to pop into that. Yes, sir. Looks like he's going to pop into that front line. Had a phenomenal week of practice last week. Excited to see how he's doing and progressing through that high ankle injury. But dude's a playmaker. If he's on the field, he's going to get it done. I think the Roots, as we saw, we put 3 in against the Roots. The Roots are gettable on defense, and I think we have the quality of play here, and this should be a great outcome. So, yeah, give me Corey Davis, fresh, rested, feeling it, give team a little shot in the arm. I think we could have a little bit of a goal fest coming up on Saturday, which we can get to a little later. But, Yeah, give me Kari Davis, pending he's in the 18, of course. So I'll, of course, be wrong if he's outside the 18, just like I was this week. But that's who I'm looking forward to. So we talked about our new guys breaking through their first goal of the season. Tell me about the guys. Who's your first guy that's going to double up?
You can't pick anybody other than the Tallahassee Messi for that, right? I mean, he's already got a goal. He's got an assist. He's the one who's getting double teamed. They're watching film on him. I mean, I think it's going to be Johnny Fitzgerald, man. He is the player who kick-started that draw that we had out in Panama City. He read the diagonal pass, gets it just inside midfield, takes 2 touches, boom, plays Cy gets an easy goal right there, just inside the 6-yard box. So, I mean, Johnny also had multiple shots in this game like he does every game. Granted, he's only been with us for 3 of the 4 games, but since he's been here, he's clearly been an extremely impactful player. And I just think it's inevitable. If it's not this week that he gets his second goal, it's got to be the next week. I mean, just any day now. I was surprised he didn't get it Saturday. But, yeah, got to go with our boy Johnny Be Good Fitzgerald. What are you thinking, man? Who do you have for your next player to double up?
I have a lot of different trains of thought that I'm going after here, Trent. First thought is, if we get the same referees that we had in Panama City, I'm going to say Schmoker, because that means we're going to get at least 1 PK if we have those guys again. But if we're talking more game flow, I'm just trying to think of it. Cy roasted those guys. They had no answer for Cy last time we played them. So he's on the forefront of my mind as well. Man, I'm trying to think it through some other options. This, I think, is the tougher one. Earls, of course, he's been causing a lot of trouble up there up top. Just thinking about it overall, as far as doubling up, that's another thing is I think we could get some head balls as well for some long throws with David. Cy potentially getting in the air. Yeah, I've talked myself into it. Let me go Cousin Cy here, the first one to double up. Because like we said, got the 22-second goal in last time we played the Roots, was just a class finish. So give it to me again. I honestly do not think that they had an answer for him. So I think he takes that confidence and he gets that rolling and he does it again here at Gene Cox Stadium. And so give me Cy, first one to double up here, Trent. And that's who we have for our Who's Next. So just to recap, you said first goal on the sheet, you said Corey. First repeat, you're going to go Fitzgerald. And, of course, I'm going to say breaking through is Kari, and our repeat, of course, is Cy. So it should be an exciting one to watch, but that's Who's Next.
Who's next?
So that's Who's Next on the score sheet for TSC. But let's go down the line, Trent, and see who's next on the schedule. Saturday, May 29th. First of all, what are you doing? Trent, I know you'll be down there at Gene Cox Stadium, but to the people listening to this, if you're still aboard, as we're about almost an hour deep in this action, what are you doing on Saturday? You got to get down to Gene Cox Stadium. Looking for some family fun? You got to go down there. Kids are free, man. They've got a great atmosphere, a lot of fun, plenty of seating. You guys can socially distance if you want to. Of course, at Gene Cox Stadium, massive facility. Get out there, a lot of fun. Root on your local guys. This is a for the city, by the city. We are built, not bought, Trent. Of course, these are all guys with local ties here in Tallahassee or South Georgia. So you may even run into these guys, whether you go and have a little nightlife out in Midtown. I know we got a little bartender on the team, whether you're at Walgreens or whether grandma's getting a hip replacement like we talked about or an ankle replacement. You know, Justin Layaird's your guy there with TOC or just different areas in the greater Tallahassee, South Georgia region that you can see these guys running into. As we continue this promo, Trent, it's just a fun atmosphere, dude, whatever you're looking for. And, of course, if you want to get hyped and looking for some community, we got some tailgates I know that are going on before the games. If you partake in the adult beverages, we know sometime in the afternoon before the tailgate, Proof's got a little pregame going on down there, Trent. So tons of opportunities for you to get together with the city, with your friends. And even if you're not big in soccer, man, just an entertaining sporting atmosphere to get out into. So all that to be said, Trent. So now everybody in the city or everybody that listens to this podcast is going to be down there. Check, check, check. So, Trent, tell us a little bit about what to expect or what you anticipate, primarily a score line. And then if you want to potentially elaborate as how we got there, because this is a team we've seen before. This is a team that we played in our second game of the season on the road that we were able to get our first result against.
Yeah, so just to kind of go hand in hand with what you were saying, as far as fan attendance, this is a really big swing in the schedule. So we have 4 home games, just played the first of 4. We've got 3 in a row, and we've got 3 opponents that both you and I think we can easily get at least 1 point, if not 3 points from here in the next 3 weeks. So against the Roots, we already drew with them, scored 3 goals, allowed 3 goals. Should have been a win, could have been a win. This time at home on our field in Tallahassee, with the old field battalions there, with you and I there back in the booth calling the game. I think there's no way they lose. I'm going to go a win. I'm going to say 4-2, Battle Lions over the Roots this Saturday. This will be the first match we've had where a team has scored at least 4 goals. Everyone is kind of capped out at 3, either parked the bus or fighting for that third and final goal in the dying embers of the match. But this week it's going to be 4-2. Corey Osgood's going to snag his first one. Cousin Sai is going to get another. They don't have any answer for him. I think Johnny can double up, get another one, and we get our boy Schmoker back. Maybe we'll get a little penalty action. Like you said, if the refs are going the same way they've been going so far, they'll be pretty generous handing out those cards and calling those fouls. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go 4-2 Battle Lions. Schmoker, Fitzgerald, Osgood, Cousin Sai. You heard it here first. Andrew Joop, what's your prediction?
Ooh, I'm liking that 4-goal score line you got going on, man. I know you dropped a little 4-2 back for Jacksonville, and so you're bringing it back now that we're back in the house again. Man, I was hoping you wouldn't steal my score line, which is good, but I think we can really get after this one. And if you haven't been down to a game yet, or you have, and it's been a little tough for you, you're wondering, man, 2 home games, 2 losses. This is our most gettable game on the schedule. At home, we have the Roots so far. I'm not saying overall because I think there's some more gettable games than this one. But of the first 5, this will be our 5th match. This is the most winnable. So if you're looking for a win, you're looking for some goals, I say this is your ticket on Saturday, dude. No doubt about it. I'm with you on the 4 goals, but I think letting up 2 is a little much. I think we firmly dominate this game. Give me a 4-1 game, TSC. I say we get in there early and often like we did last time, but we don't get the concessions there afterwards, and we really close it out second half. So I'm talking Sai, I'm talking Corey, I'm talking Kari, and Levy breaking through. Give me those are my big 4, and I'll give them 1, just them kind of getting desperate. They got a couple good guys, and they've got some good perimeter exterior play that I think they can link up and give chances. I think this is a winnable game. The guys are going to come out intense. They're going to be in front of the home crowd, and they're looking to make their stamp as Trent because, like you said, this is a winnable stretch. And this is a chance for TSC to get back in that conversation, talking playoffs and really talking about some solid results. Because we think this is a good team and just unfortunately have not gotten the first win yet. But this is the best opportunity to get the first win. And winning's contagious, man. Once you get one, we might be able to rattle off a couple here and go on quite the run. So you say 4-2, Trent. I say 4-1. So let the record show. Those are our predictions. I'm willing to go down with a ship with that one, man. So this is probably my most confident game that we've had out here for us so far this season. And coming off a tough one, we just played the best team in the league. So we're going to take a best team in the league performance, parlay it in here. And Trent, we're going to really take a jump in those standings because after checking out Twitter, I was looking at the Old Field Battalions and, of course, the supporters group for the Tallahassee Soccer Club, if you're not aware. And they have received the 850 Cup. It has been published, it has been made, and it is ready to go. The 850 Tangible Cup is official. So we could really take a jump in those standings. Of course, 850 was kind of a funny idea they were throwing about, but they actually followed up, and it is a legitimate thing now. The cup exists. And so, of course, there's 3 teams in the 850 area code. There's Panama City Roots, there's the Pensacola FC, and, of course, us here in Tallahassee. And so we'll each play a total of 4 games, each other team twice. And so basically the team with the most amount of points in between those will win the 850 Cup. And it's just something that kind of came about and is fun. We currently lead, and I'm ready for us to take the next step and really put our stamp in, get a big win here against the Roots down there on Saturday. So once again, 4-1 prediction here. But Trent, to me, this is a revenge game. The one that got away, I think of when you look about it, up 2-0. and then having so many chances in that game. Obviously, we had to scrap back in Pensacola, but this is, if you had to pick one game where we could have had more points, I think this is the top of the list. And the way that game went down and how physical and chippy it was and salty it was, if you will, I see as this kind of revenge game. The guys are going to be motivated. I think we come out slinging. Any other thoughts about the upcoming action beyond the scoreline here?
Yeah, Jupe, I agree with you on all that, man. As far as the 850 Cup is concerned, this is a huge game in that rivalry. It is a rivalry now. Like you said, we do have an official trophy. So we're actually fighting for some hardware. Year one, MPSL, trying to be the Kings of Leon and the Kings of the entire 850 area code. So I'm just excited to see us play somebody we've already played. We've got film on them. We know how they play. We're familiar with them. And like you said, this is a game we should have won last time. And coming out, we'll be at home. I don't think there's any way that we get anything less than 3 points. It's just a matter of by how many goals we win by. So if you're out in Tallahassee, you're looking for something to do Saturday, kids 12 and under get in for free. We'll be on the broadcast. The team will put it out on Facebook and Twitter. But, yeah, we just want to get as many fans in those stands as possible. Corey Osgood was on Instagram this week talking about how awesome it was to have over 700 fans in attendance, backing them. And these guys just feed off of that. You know, they need a crowd that gets behind them. You know, now that COVID is progressing a little bit, we're getting vaccinated. We've got masks. We can gather outside again. So we need you out there. We need numbers. And, yeah, this is a club that is built, not bought. We are committed to the community of Tallahassee, Thomasville. And, you know, we just want to give back to the community. So this is going to be our first win of the season. If there was ever a game you should come out to, this is the one. We're going to win the 850 Cup, and this is just a glimpse of how that's going to look. So come on out Saturday, and, yeah, let's get 3 points.
Show them a fan base here and a nice crowd because, of course, we're averaging right around 800 per home game, something that we definitely did not see out in Panama City from the Roots, which actually put out a funny thing on their Twitter. The best fans in the 850. Which I scoffed at. Obviously, that narrative will change come Saturday. But, yeah, I'm excited and even a little cocky, but deservedly so. I'm confident in the boys, and this should be a real fun one going forward. Cool predictions, and will be a fun one out there. Excited, and not just a good soccer atmosphere, but like we talked about, community atmosphere. I've been told that the barbecue that they had out there in one of the food trucks was absolutely dope. We can expect great food down there. If that's the case, man, we got to keep this barbecue joint coming out, get a little snow cones, and, you know, this is if you're a foodie, come out for the food, stay for the soccer, man, and it'll be an entertaining Saturday. But, yeah, like you said, we're going to continue to hype up, and we will unapologetically continue to try to hype this up and go promotional to get you out there on Saturday. But, Trent, I think that's an excellent way to get the predictions against what we will have against the Roots from Panama City as they come in. 7 o'clock, once again, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Gene Cox Stadium, Gene Cox Stadium, Gene Cox Stadium, Gene Cox Stadium on the south side right here in Tallahassee, Tallahassee, Tallahassee. And so, Trent, we talked about the Roots game. We talked about the 850 Cup. That is a natural segue out from our predictions. And now we'll cascade into a little league outlook. So we'll kind of zoom out a little bit and address the elephant in the room, the state of the union, state of the club, whatever you want to call it, Trent, of how TSC has done and what we can look forward to. What are your initial thoughts about how the season has gone? Because you look at 4 games, and if you're a casual fan, they say, oh, man, I've gone to a couple home games, or they've been at home twice, lost those both, or we've been through 4 games, we still haven't won. 4 games and 2 ties, that could be pretty rough, and, you know, people could have some certain opinions that wouldn't necessarily be accurate. What's your response to someone that's coming to the table with that kind of point of view, or a casual fan that just may not know about what's going on or what kind of the picture is? I know a lot of different angles to take with that, but paint me one from your point of view.
Just off the top of the head, Jupe, like we said at the beginning of the season, our first pod, this is going to be a very top-heavy league. We're just trying to fight for that 4th and final playoff spot, sneak in there, and then try to disrupt after that. So we've got to go up against the Jacksonville Armada U23 team. We've had to go against the Southern Stars. Those are the top 2 teams in the league right now. We play the other 2 teams in the 850, Pensacola and Florida Roots. We drew with both of them 3-3. Both were comeback wins. We were down a goal in Pensacola. We were down 2 goals late in the second half and came back and tied those. So, I mean, this is a team with a lot of heart, a lot of grit, and they're just not going to give up. They're not going to lay down, and they are definitely not going to draw or lose this week against the Roots. I'm not trying to just bang that into your head, but, like, seriously, if there's a game you want to watch this season, this is going to be the one. Come out to it, watch it at home, because we are going to flip the script. We're going to show that we do belong in this conference. We're going to get back into the playoff hunt. And, I mean, there are multiple teams that either have just as many points as us or less than us. So, you know, we've got a chance to get 3 points from the Roots, pole vault ourselves up ahead. I believe they only have the 1 point from drawing with us at this point. So that'll definitely put some space in between us there. And yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of obstacles working against us. A lot of these guys are coming back from college. Cameron Earls graduated from college on Friday night, came to Tallahassee the next day, and played Saturday last week against Pensacola, or 2 weeks ago now, and scored his first goal. And so, you know, these are guys that don't have chemistry with each other. They're just meeting each other for the first time, just getting to know Coach Bruno. Coach Bruno wasn't out there at Pensacola. Jacob Schmoker wasn't there this past week against Southern Stars. So there have just been a million different reasons why we haven't gotten 3 points. Now, granted, if you talk to Bruno, if you talk to any of the guys on the team, they're not concerned about that. They know that they should have won. And I guess that's just what I'm trying to say, is that there are games we should have won, we could have won, and now we're in an opportunity to actually win. And so after Saturday, I just think it's a totally different mantra around the club. We're going to be coming for the 4th playoff spot. I'm hoping we can get the 3rd, maybe even have the Armada and the Southern Stars, after they start playing each other, one of them can get the better of them twice. They can drop some points. Maybe we can sneak up into the 2nd spot. Who knows, man? But it's a long season. It's far from over. And again, we've got 3 home games in a row coming up. This is going to be a huge swing in this season.
Agree with that for sure. That's definitely a good point. Like you said, this has been a tough one. Yeah, first of all, the 2 losses. So let's take the elephant in the room. We've played at home twice, but they're to the 2 best teams. You look at the standings, neither of them have lost. They've won all of the games. They've played a combined 7 games. They've won all 7 of those, which is very rare in soccer to have won every single game, no ties or anything like that. And those are by consensus the 2 best teams. So you look at the other 2 games that we've played, both of which on the road, which of course is a little more difficult. Should we have won at least one of those games? Probably, the way things went. But what you're going to do, there's no revision of that. And we had to battle back, like we said, in both of those games. So in some regards, it was a win to get a draw there. So we're sitting at 2 points. And so if you went by raw points, we would be 5th in the standings, of course, out of 8. If you went by the points per game, which they actually do, we're at 6th, which is the more accurate representation of the standings. So we're 6 out of the 8 standings here because we've played the 4 games. But the one team that's directly ahead of us is Pensacola, and it's only because they've tied us that they're above us, and they haven't played as many games. So their average, of course, is higher because they played less games. So they're ahead of us. And then you have the Roots in Port City at 1 point because they tied us, are the Roots, and 0 points for Port City so far. So it's, as it goes down the list, Southern Stars at number 1 with 12, Jacks at 9, AFC Mobile at 7, New Orleans at 4 points. So those are your top 4 teams, and then you go, of course, Pensacola, TSC, Roots, Port City. So we get into a very comfortable stretch. Like you said, Trent, you talked about these 3 home games. But who do we have? We have the team currently sitting at 7th below us that we've already played and already should have beat at home this time. So, boom, if you cash that in for 3 points, that's a very winnable, realistic perspective. Then, a week after that, we have New Orleans, who, Trent, was one of the favorites coming into this season, but they may be a little more gettable than they have in years past. So there's a potential to get a draw there, if not a win. Of course, that's 5-6 hours from New Orleans. They have to come all the way over here. Plus, you think about the time zones, they lose an hour. So essentially, it's a quicker trip that they have to make on and get adjusted. There's no jet lag. I don't think New Orleans is going to fly into Tallahassee International, but probably taking the bus there and an opportunity for us to get at least 1 point. So right there, that's 4 points, which is double what we already have. And then we have Port City, which has not had any points. They've lost all of their games. They have not tied. And we have them at home on a Thursday night. So they've got to travel all the way from Mississippi. I think they're in Gulfport, Mississippi, all the way over here on a Thursday. Once again, jumping time zones. They lose an hour. And a team that's really struggling. And I think that's another gettable 3 points. That's a game we'll actually be playing in a different stadium, too. It'll be a more intimate environment. And so I feel like our crowd will be even more felt out there on June 10th when we play them on a Thursday night. You look at that in a small picture, potentially 7 points in the next 3 games. So that could catapult us from having 2 points currently and being in 6 to all the way up to 9 points out of 7 games, which would take us from a situation where we're averaging half a point per game all the way up to about 1.28, or that's kind of the threshold for that 4th spot, that 4th, 5th playoff spot. You're looking at about averaging a point or a point and a half, somewhere in there. I think 1.25 is kind of that magic number, looking at the table here, and that will put us right above there. So after this 3-game stretch, this is a real opportunity for us to grasp the season. These are all gettable games, especially the Roots in Port City. If we could get a point versus New Orleans, that'd be huge. But an opportunity to leapfrog and get back into this momentum, because after that we have a rough road trip. So if we can get these 3 games here at home here in the next 2.5 weeks, we can really capture that momentum to launch us into the second half of the season, because then we've played everybody in our league except AFC. Just with the scheduling quirks, they're a little farther down the line, so we'll get them later. But like you said, this is a huge momentum opportunity to capture this, and some teams that, quite frankly, looking at film, both when we played them and when they played other people, these are teams I feel like we should beat. And so something that was brought up with the mailbag, Trent.
You got some mail.
Oh, mail's here.
But have you ever seen a mailroom?
Through 2 games, 2 losses, 2 ties here for TSC. Is it time for the panic mode or cause for concern? Winless, lost 2 at home, and we tied 2 of the bottom 3 teams here besides ourselves. Trent, any thoughts on the matter? No, we touched on a lot of different issues, but build upon this a little bit.
Well, first off, who's that email from? That's got to be like a Jax Armada fan or something. I know no Battle Lion is thinking that after just 4 games that, time for panic and all that nonsense. So.
It's that guy that's been sneaking into the my Cujo chat that's been blowing it up. I don't know if anybody's been watching these streams, but there was a troll from Jacksonville because they had off. So he was watching all the other games in the league, and he was just putting Duval chants and other pro-Jax propaganda in there. It might be that guy that got a hold of the email and spamming it in there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it had to have been. But anyhow, to answer that question, no, I definitely don't think that there's any cause for concern. Well, I won't say that there's no cause for concern, but as far as hitting the panic button, forgetting about the season, moving on, tuning back in next year, I think you'd just be silly to do that because, as we said, we've got plenty of opportunity here in the next 3 games to win, to get at least a draw against the Jesters, if not beat them as well, because they have to travel. They've got not that jet lag, that van lag coming over on the bus from a different time zone. So I think that we will have a tough go at it once we do have that road schedule. We got to go play the Armada. I think we go and play Southern Stars as well during that stretch, maybe just after that. But anyhow, it's going to be rough for a little bit. But after we get some of these easier games behind us, and not trying to dismiss any of our opponents, because clearly we're all in the same conference, same division for a reason. But I think that this is going to be the easiest part of the schedule by far. Like you said, our 2 losses have come against the 2 toughest teams. Even though they have been at home, they've been against the 2 best teams in the league. We have played 2 of the worst teams on the road, but we've gotten a draw on the road both times. So this is the team who travels well. I know Chris Petley said that last year he kind of set the team up for failure on one of their road games. His words, not mine. But he's just saying that there are a couple of things he probably could have done a little differently that would have just set the team up for success a little bit better. Now that we have made multiple road trips, we're getting familiar with it. We've even gone on the road with Coach V. Didn't even have Bruno for that match. Still got a draw. So if there was any time that the troops are going to rally, it's going to be now. I'm not saying if we don't get the result that we're looking for Saturday to just, forget about this season and move on with your life, because anything's possible in the game of soccer. We obviously drew with them 3-3 the first time, but I think now or never for the Tallahassee Battle Lions.
That was one thing that really goes out to the boys is it was kind of a heartbreaker because we talked about the casual fan and they show up maybe for one or two of these games. You see the Jacksonville one. Luckily, we got the goal and something to celebrate in the first NPSL game, in the first game of the season, which was cool. They lit up the smoke and we really started going off. But that was an awesome shot. So that kind of saved it there. And then if this was your first game against Stars, you see them let up a goal early and, of course, ended up dropping that one 3-0. They, of course, had some opportunities and everything, but once again, talking casual fan, is that was the heartbreaker because you know this is a talented squad, but if people are just going off these results or reading it in the paper or catching on the news, they're like, oh, man, these guys aren't going to win. Why would I go out this Saturday? And so that's the narrative we're trying to hammer home is winnable games. This will be a grand opportunity. You're going to see some goals this Saturday, and this isn't us just being an irrational homer. These teams combined for 6 goals the last time that they played. This wasn't an accident that we put 3 in the net. So look forward to that and look forward to hopefully a positive result. So we're going to continue to beat that drum, Trent. We're going to hammer this home until it sticks, man. I'm really hoping that they get the result, and because these guys deserve it. And the work that they're putting in and the effort and the skill and the atmosphere here. And I think that could really help the cause too, because if they win this one, they get a good result against New Orleans. You know, even on a weird Thursday, I think we can pull a good crowd down there. I think we're playing at Florida High is where we'll play on June 10th. So we're going down there, once again, an intimate stadium, so it'll be a lot tighter. And so we have those 700 fans that we had last week. That'll sound a lot more intense down there in the woods of Florida High. It'll be a fun one down there in Southwood. Yeah, don't give up on these boys. That's another thing. We've been through 4 games. This is a 14-game regular season. We're not even a third of the way there. Of course, after this week, we will be. But still plenty of time for this team to get hot, this team to get acquainted, this time to get organized and just be able to gel. Because these guys, we still have people that are flowing in from school and, you know, they'll practice once and then go play. Or like we said for Cameron Earls, he literally graduated, ripped down here, took the road trip. You know, he probably met the majority of the team on the bus on the way to the game. It was trying to feel them out and still was able to put one in, help us get the draw and stuff like that. And you have Johnny coming in his first game versus the Roots, just shredded them. We talked about him and Cy just absolutely having a field day and got things going. So once again, I mean, do not give up on these boys. This is a team ready to strike and some opportunity coming. And once again, we're going to repeat, but really pumped for this one. Have not been more confident going into a game this season, Trent. A lot of different questions that we've put out there and addressed. Any more that we need to dump on or maybe on the perimeter of these thoughts that we can incorporate?
Just keep in mind we've had some rough games just from an officiating standpoint, and there have been a lot of calls against us that shouldn't have been calls at all, or there have been a lot of calls that weren't made that should have been a huge call resulting in a card, or like we said a couple weeks ago, Peralta, when that guy came in and slid him from behind, flipped him over, that could have been a straight red. And, you know, so just a lot of factors working against us. But still, we've played 4, which I believe is tied for the most games played so far this season. A lot of teams had only played 2 or 3 up to this point. So we're getting a lot of our tougher games out of the way, not getting the results we want, but still finding our way, finding our footing this point in the season. And it's really just a matter of time, like you said. This last game that we played the Roots, there were 6 goals. We're currently, I think, in second for most goals scored. So this is a team, 7 different goal scorers, 7 different goals can come from anybody at any given time. So, I mean, when you just think about soccer and what you want, that's the MO. I mean, you want to see a team that anybody can score.
Tons of scoring threats on this ball club, no doubt. So excited to see some more out there on Saturday. So that's kind of the league outlook and the league update and kind of perception and updates, big picture-wise, I guess you could say, of where we fall in the mix here. So let's do a little updated information related to the club, Trent.
I got excited. I just wanted to shout it from on top of a mountain.
Our job is to report the news, not fabricate it.
I don't know if this is the kind of hard-hitting news you're used to covering.
News team! Assemble!
I know last week it was primarily injury watch and potential injuries, potentially people coming back from injuries, which is what we have a lot of this week as well. Of course, with some other things in the mix as well. But what are some news bulletins here as we come down the stretch that can be addressed, or we can look forward to?
So first thing off the top of my head, we get Jacob Schmoker, our captain, back. Penalty taker, set piece specialist, and just the leader of this club. Definitely the oldest player we have. No offense to him, but just somebody who coaches in the community, just really understands the game, and can really facilitate however the team needs. Can just pick up on the game flow, can either establish possession, can pass the ball extremely well, can dribble it, can make tackles, and obviously can shoot. He's got a goal as well. So Jacob Schmoker going to be back. Another one, we talked about him. You've talked about him. Your boy, Kari Davis. Hopefully he's back this week. If it's not this week, it should be the week following. I mean, he's been cleared to play. Just a matter of time before we see Kari. A player in high school who was a great attacking player, had to drop back, play a little bit of stopper, a little defender, knows how to play all over the pitch, though. Just an excellent player who has a knack for goal, could easily come up, make the start at our number 9, can play off of Levy and Sai. And, I mean, we could really get some goals if Kari is fully healthy and able to go this week. Again, dealing with a high ankle sprain, those are tricky. You don't ever want to rush a guy back from injury too soon and have him re-aggravate it. But I think that Kari is extremely close to playing. He's going to make a huge impact. He's going to immediately be in the starting lineup once he's good to go. And, yeah, I mean, we got Coach Bruno back. We got Schmoker and Corey Osgood really coming into form. So just top of my head, I think that those are kind of the guys that I think we're going to see capitalize in this next match against the Roots. But what about you, man? What do you got?
Some more positives coming out from last week. We wondered, how was Daunt doing? How was Kronbeck doing? We were told that Kronbeck messed up his index finger, I think it was, in the Pensacola game. But he looked fresh. He got the start. He looked okay with everything there. And on the other side, we know Daunt, I think back going to the Florida Roots game, that he may have been dinged up. We don't know that for sure. And that's something we didn't get answered, but he went the full 90, so we think that he's good to go, and he'll be able to soldier on and get through this. A couple more question marks, like you said. Is Kari going to come back? Because that's going to be huge. And just some other ones based on the last game. We had some substitutions, some potential injury watches. Once again, do not know, have no confirmation, which we will try to get this week. Put them up on the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at TallySCtalk, of course. And so we'll try to keep you updated in that regard. Something to look out for, of course, that big hit we talked about with Monroe. The guy chopped him down right around the 70th minute of that Southern Stars game, and he really looked affected, and he was subbed out of the game about 10 minutes later. We saw Mike Zamora come out in the 15th minute, which is very odd and typically has to do with an injury. And then we saw Wimbo come out in the 44th minute, which is also very odd, because it's 1 minute before halftime, so if you're going to make that change, why not wait until the halftime whistle to do so? So obviously hoping all 3 of those guys are clean bill of health and are either good or good to go by Saturday, not only for their game performance, but, just them as human beings and members of the Tallahassee community here. But those are some players to watch to see how they are doing. So once again, something we're going to get an update on going forward. But outside of that, that's pretty much all the news we have going on, except that, we got another home game coming up.
News team, assemble!
And we have some opportunities, a little tailgate pregame, and then Proof will be doing something this Saturday afternoon as well. But 7 o'clock, catch them down at Gene Cox Stadium. Any closing remarks before we put a bow on this thing, Trent, before we skate on out of here?
Don't let the ship sail on Tallahassee just yet. Stick around. You're going to be in for a good ride. This is just the beginning. Again, we jumped up to the NPSL, whole new level of play that we're going up against. Some very seasoned clubs that have been around for 10, 15, 20 years. Clubs with a lot more money than we have, hence the hashtag built, not bought that Oldfield's put out there on Twitter. This is a club that none of these players are getting housed. They're not getting special treatment. They're not getting flown in from other states. We're not recruiting anybody. These are just the citizens of Tallahassee, Thomasville, the surrounding areas that are coming out, that love the game, and that are just trying to give back to the community. So this is a club that you have to stand behind. I don't see why you wouldn't want to, because they're just trying to give back to the community. They're trying to do it all for you. They just want your involvement. They want to make you happy. This is going to be the game you want to watch. They're going to sell you on the club if you haven't been sold yet. Florida Roots, 7 o'clock, Gene Cox Stadium. My Juju, it'll be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We'll get the link out there for you guys to listen to the broadcast if you can't make it out. But again, Kids 12 and under get in for free. The whole family affair. Bring everybody out. We're going to have a great time on Saturday night.
Trent, an excellent way to put a bow on things and ride out here into the sunset. So that's all we have here from the TallySCtalk podcast. Of course, the official podcast here of the Tallahassee Soccer Club. So make sure to hit us up at TallySC on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And you already probably know that. But if you're looking for some interesting comments, concerns, thoughts, things we need to talk about, dissect, or get into, make sure you hit that Gmail, get a part of that mailbag segment, TallySCtalk at gmail.com. And we will have that coming up here. But that's all we got. Getting ready for Saturday. Should be an exciting one. It's Roots Week here at TallySC, a big matchup coming up on Saturday. So thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you down there at Gene Cox Stadium at 7 p.m. For Andrew Joop and Trent Young, take care.